The American lady is a sweet little mid-sized butterfly that flits from flower to flower. They have 2 large spots on their hind wings. I always find the caterpillars on Pennsylvania cudweed, but this particular cudweed isn't native. But there are a handful of Gamakita that are native. The caterpillars aren't picky, so I let the non-native ones live in my green space to allow the butterflies to have a host plant. They also use tall ironweed as a host plant. The last time I was in South Florida, my friend Sid and I found an entire road median full of coonties and atala butterflies. It was stressful dodging the traffic to get photos, but it was a wonderful experience seeing so many. Their caterpillars look like gummy worms, and the color of the adults is incredible. The blue is metallic and the red is so intense. These are an endangered butterfly, and they're found in the south, but they are starting to move farther northward. A population was just found in Bradenton, so keep your eyes peeled for these when you're looking at your coontie palms. Black swallowtails are always in the yard on herbs such as fennel, parsley, and dill. Their native host plants include mock bishop's weed and zizia. Zizia's common name is golden Alexanders. They tend to fly closer to the ground compared to other swallowtails, and they're very common in flower beds. They visit just about any flower that they can find. These medium-sized butterflies are always flying around looking for nectar and toad flax to lay their eggs on. The best place to spot them is in a field of toad flax. Occasionally you can find a large field of it growing along a roadside. They have 2 large wing spots on their outer hind wing, and when they open their wings, you can see 4 large eye spots on their upper and lower wings. Canadian toadflax is a native host plant. cassius blues are little tiny butterflies, and you rarely see them until they open their wings and you see a flash of blue. They're really fast and have erratic flight, so it makes them hard to get a good look at them. Once they find a nice patch of flowers to nectar on, they concentrate on feeding, and then you can better observe them. Their host plant is a native plumbago called Dr. Bush. I have heard that they do use the blue plumbago as a host plant. The ceraunus blue is another tiny blue butterfly. I always have some species of milk pea growing, so I see these more often than the cassius blue. If you plant milkweeds, then you will most likely get the chance to see these. They lay their eggs on many pea plants, including milk pea, cow pea, and butterfly pea. And most of these natives are very easy to grow, and they don't take up much space. This is a Florida milk pea called a Galactia floridana. Cloudless sulphurs seem to prefer red flowers, so plant red salvia and red penta for these guys. This butterfly actually migrates to North Florida in the spring and back south in the fall. And in September and October, you can usually find very large numbers of them and feeding together in large groups. They like to rest underneath the leaves of shrubs, and you may startle one into flight if you disturb the plant. Their host plants are sennas. This is a native called Senna ligustrina. Having citrus trees is the best way to see giant swallowtails because they use citrus as a host plant. They're strong flyers, but if you catch a female preoccupied with laying eggs, you can get close enough to observe them. Since they eat citrus trees, citrus growers spray pesticide so these caterpillars don't get to eat their trees. So if you live in an area with a lot of citrus growers, you may not see many of these around. One of their native host plants is Hercules club. Xanthocylum clava hercules. If you have passion flower around, then you will definitely see these butterflies. They love Spanish needles and porterweed for nectar, and while laying their eggs, they're oblivious to people so they can easily be approached. They will use just about any passion flower vine, even if it's in the shade or the sun. Their outer wings have beautiful spots of silver. This is a purple passion vine called Passiflora incarnata. Long-tailed skippers don't mind people at all, and they will nectar and lay eggs even if you're standing right next to them. My porterweed gets dozens of these on it at one time. They lay eggs on plants in the pea family. Florida has a lot of beggarweeds, which are called desmodiums. Many are non-native, but we do have several native ones. Desmodiums are also called tick trefoils. They also use butterfly pea, which is a centrosema. I grow a lot of milkweed, so I have a lot of monarchs. They're one of the easiest butterflies to attract to a butterfly garden, and the non-native milkweed is always for sale at the big box stores. So try it out and then graduate to some native milkweeds. Monarchs migrate, and large populations can be seen along the lower St. Johns River in Florida as they're migrating along the Atlantic coast. Here in Central Florida, monarchs are full-time, non-migratory residents. This is a native host plant called pine woods milkweed, Asclepias humistrata. Pipevines, as their name implies, uses pipevines as their host plant. We only have a few native species, but there are usually non-native ones available at nurseries. Pipevines fly rapidly and can be found nectaring on flowers, such as blackberries, thistle, and wild plums. Pipevine swallowtail caterpillars look very similar to a polydamas caterpillar, and they both feed on the same plants. This is a native called Virginia snakeroot. This is Aristolochia serpentaria. So you will most likely have both types of these butterflies. The polydamas has an orange-gold rim across the top of its head. So that's the best way to tell them apart. The polydamas swallowtail uses the same pipevines as host plants. And as I just said, the caterpillars look very similar and can usually be found eating together on the same plant. It's also called the gold-rimmed swallowtail, which is maybe why the caterpillar has a gold rim across its forehead. The female lays tons of eggs, so be sure to have several plants so that they can have enough food to complete their instars. This is a native pipevine called Virginia snakeroot. The queen butterfly is often mistaken for a monarch. But look for the caterpillars, and the caterpillars have 3 sets of tentacles, and the monarch only has 2. And also, they're more of a mahogany brown, and when they open their wings, you don't see black lines like you do on the monarchs. They use milkweeds just like the monarch, so you will often see them eating together on the same plant. This is a native host plant called swamp milkweed, Asclepias incarnata. It's very easy to grow from seed. This beautiful butterfly looks like a swallowtail without tails and has a lot of blue on its inside wings. It uses our most common willow, which is called the coastal plain willow. Willows are very common and found growing in wet sites and roadside ditches. The red-spotted purple is not that common in Central Florida and is much more common in the northern part of the state. But I have seen them in Central Florida on occasion. Another host plant they will use is the black cherry tree, Prunus serrata. So keep an eye out for that, but look for new foliage because that's where the caterpillars eat. These small hair streaks are quick and leery of people, but they do like to nectar on trees, so you may be able to catch one preoccupied with nectaring and observe it. Look for winged sumac trees to find their caterpillars. We have about 70 species of hairstreak in Florida, so it may be difficult to positively ID them without a photo. The red-banded hairstreak is the most common one. The eastern tiger swallowtail can be seen nectaring on flowers, but is usually high up in the treetops, laying eggs on tulip tree and magnolia. The tops of the trees are generally where the fresh growth is found. The females have two forms, with some being yellow and some being black. This is one of their native host plants, called the tulip tree, Liriodendron tulipifera. The viceroy is another butterfly that uses willow as a host plant. In our area, coastal plain willow is the most common one. They look very similar to monarchs and queens. However, they are smaller and not as aggressive flyers as monarchs and queens. This is a coastal plain willow, Salix caroliniana. Viceroys are very territorial and tend to protect the host tree that they are using at any given time. So they can be seen perched on the outer limbs, on the lookout for intruders to scare away. The white peacock visits just about any flower, but they do tend to stay low to the ground because that's where their host plants grow. They're silvery white with an orange-brown border. So they're a pretty unmistakable butterfly. They use bacopa and turkey tangle fog fruit as host plants. The fog fruit's Latin name is Phylla nodiflora, and this is commonly found in many people's lawns. Some people call it frog fruit. This is our state butterfly. The zebra longwing uses passion flower vines as host plants, but they prefer the ones that grow in shady areas like the corky stem passion flower. Since they're all black, they prefer shady locations so they don't overheat, and they also like to roost communally in Spanish moss at night or during inclement weather. They can usually be found along forest edges, flying slowly and they never seem to be in any hurry at all. The females can sometimes be seen with pollen on their proboscis. This is a corky stem passion flower, Passiflora suberosa. The zebra swallowtail is very striking with its black stripes and triangular shaped wings. It has very long tails. This beauty uses pawpaws as host plants. Pawpaws are found in pinelands, so that's where you'll most likely find these butterflies. Pineland pawpaws are difficult to grow or transplant, so that's why they're not usually seen in nurseries. But there is a tree pawpaw called Asimina triloba that you may be able to locate in a native nursery. Enjoy your green space, and I'll see you soon.